The oceans and seas of our planet cover 71% of the Earth's surface. We know little to nothing about what lies beneath. This is why I have created, in 2013, the OCEAN71 digital magazine. We aim to combine exploration and investigation with digital technology to bring our subscribers tales from beneath the surface. To achieve this, we have converted a 12-meter yacht to a floating newsroom equipped with all the modcons to work in a digital era. OCEAN71 is made up of a team of journalists, sailors, divers and specialists. Our mission is to go where few have gone before and to return with unique images and information.
At the end of the first expedition to southern Albania, the OCEAN71 team headed back to Paris. Our first job on returning home was to review the discoveries that we had made in a country which, while geographically close, still remains largely unknown. We arrived in Albania by boat and made our first discoveries underwater, testimony to the ancient cultural wealth of this country. Ashore, we made an interesting acquaintance and discovered that none other than Julius Ceasar had made a personal appearance in modern Albania. In fact, the coastal town of Oricum was his very first conquest. But two questions still remained unanswered. How and why did this historic figure come to be in Albania over 2,000 years ago? In the pursuit of answers, we discovered something fascinating. With the iron fist of communist rule dominating Albania, modern history books have quite simply omitted a whole chapter of Julius Caesar's conquests. And yet, this period was a key moment in his quest for absolute power. To understand what happened, first, we must go back in time. In about 60 BC, Rome was a republic governed by a senate. The senate granted its councillors full power to conquer new territories. One of these all-power warriors was Pompey, a brilliant general who managed to eradicate piracy in the Mediterranean and who conquered territories to the east of Rome as far as Syria. The other was Julius Caesar. He fought a 10-year war to expand the republic to the north, swallowing up vast territories, including Gaul. When Caesar returned to Rome, he's triumphant and at the head of a powerful and experienced army. Back in Paris, Pierre Caban, a French archaeologist and honorary professor of the University of Nanterre, threw some light on what happened next. As one of the few that was permitted entry to Albania in the 70s during the communist era, and who is now considered one of the most prominent specialists on modern Albanian archaeology, he was well placed to do so. In 49 BC, having taken Gaul, Julius Caesar decided to return to Italy. But Roman law prohibited returning generals from leading their army into the city. The Pomerium was a demilitarized zone around the town where the Senate ruled supreme. Caesar flouted this law and led his army across the Rubicon River that defined the border between the north and this zone. Alea Iacta Est, he declared as he crossed the bridge. Civil war began. Pompey and a part of the Senate decided to cross the Adriatic and established in Dyrrhachium. This is where the history books and reality diverge. History states that Pompey and the senators sought refuge in Greece. But in fact, they settled along the Illyrian coast, a Roman province that Pompey knew well. He ruled it. When he finished his military campaign, he left his powerful army and fleet to await his return. Julius Ceasar is stuck. A sea separates him from his enemy. At least, that's what everyone believes. During our expedition in Albania, a contact mentioned a group of Swiss archaeologists that had visited the ancient city of Oricum. We tracked them down to the shores of Lake Geneva. At the city's university, I met Jonathan Consagra, one of the archaeologists studying Caesar's conquest into modern Albania. During our meeting, we discussed the little-known fact that Caesar was separated from his enemy by the Adriatic Sea. To put an end to the civil war, he needed to cross the water. Caesar had a problem. There weren't any boats left. Pompey had seized them all to make his crossing. He gathered together as many galeras as he could from Brindisi, but they were not the warships that he needed to carry his troops. He had to go into battle with reduced forces and commercial sailing boats. He gathered together his generals and they planned a stealth attack on the enemy. Archaeologists such as Léon Heuzet, sent by Napoleon III to follow in Caesar's footsteps in 1865, described the mission as extremely risky. The landing on the Epirus coast is perhaps the boldest military act in Julius Caesar's career. Looking at the facts, it appears a singularly reckless strategy that leaves everything to chance. The weather was just one of the major dangers. Caesar decided to cast off one evening in October of 49 BC. There were gale-force winds from the north. What was most surprising is that he would attempt such a crossing in the winter. But chance dealt him a good hand that night, and the northerly winds aided his passage, blowing the fleet across the Straits of Otranto and onto the Albanian coast. Had the wind dropped, the sailing fleet that Caesar had commandeered would have been at the mercy of Pompey's warships that were patrolling the enemy coastline. For Caesar, the storm-force winds were a necessary evil. At dawn, the mountains to the south of Albania were in sight, and Caesar was to make his second tactical decision. He needed to find a remote area to disembark his troops without being spotted. Pompey's son was standing by in Corfu with a 100-strong fleet of battleships, so there was no time to lose. Caesar needed to disembark, and quickly. He found a sandy beach called Palassa, perhaps the only one in the area that would allow him to get close to the shore. The troops gathered on the beach, but this was just the beginning. The soldiers were at the foot of a mountain that peaked at more than 1,000 meters. A harsh walk was still ahead of them. It is a very steep climb and to this day is very difficult. What Caesar's troops achieved was incredible. Not only had they sailed overnight from Italy to Albania, but they then hiked over a mountain pass before reaching the Ducat Valley. After 12 hours of sailing in perilous weather and 24 hours of climbing in freezing conditions, Caesar led his loyal legionaries into the port of Oricum.
Et sans mener bataille d'après ce qu'il nous dit, son texte.
According to his records, the people of Oricum threw open the gates of the town to him and he took the port. From there, he began his campaign against Pompey, who in the meantime had been warned by his generals that Caesar had reached the shore of Illyria.
Par ces généraux, ces officiers, que César avait atteint les côtes d'Illyrie.
Mission accomplished. Caesar achieved the impossible. He managed to seize one of the most strategic ports without using a single warship. The military attack on Oricum first, then Apollonia and Dyrrhachium, are major steps in Caesar's upcoming dictatorship of Rome.
La dictature césarienne, finalement.
Oricum was just the first step. Taking this strategic port meant that Caesar could bring the rest of his army to Albania. Without them, he would never have been able to defeat Pompey a few months later, putting an end to the civil war in Pharsalia, Macedonia. Oricum's remains are modest compared to some ancient digs, but amazingly, this historic crossroads in military history has never been excavated. The Albanian military base situated in Pasha-Liman only allowed access in 2005. It could be that traces of Julius Caesar's time in the port of Oricum still remain undiscovered for 2,000 years.